Welcome to another week of my marathon training for the Dublin and Florence marathons. So this is my first week back after a deload week, so I was increasing the mileage a bit in this week and bringing the intense workouts back in. So first up, as always, on a Monday we do hills, so 8 30-second hill reps up the same hill as always, and then a steady jog up a bigger hill on the way back home. So Dublin in particular has a couple of hills and one really big difficult hill towards the end around mile 21, so it's good to get these hills in and just a bit of practice. That's on top of the other benefits from hills which I've discussed in previous videos as well. I followed this up later in the day with a swim in the pool, so I did 7 200 meter reps, did 100 meters with a pull buoy, which just basically means I'm just focusing on my stroke just to make it a bit better. And then I did a couple of short and sharp faster reps as well of 50 meters, so one lap up and down at the pool each, and that's just kind of like an interval session within the pool. So this day isn't too intense. The hill reps are intense, but they're kind of short enough that it's not a big fatigue impact, and then the pool is just good for recovery, get the blood flowing and get a bit of extra fitness work in on top of that. So then Tuesday was a bit of a hybrid session, so we did 15 kilometers easy at a kind of recovery pace, and I followed this up with 10 kilometers split between 1 kilometer where I was going faster than my marathon pace, so I was kind of targeting somewhere between 3:40 and kind of 3:35ish in this range. And then I followed that up with a 1 kilometer steady pace, so this is kind of just below a sub 3 hour marathon pace, just a little bit slower than that. So what this does is it gives me a bit of a fitness gain from the easy work I've done at the start of the run, and then I'm doing a bit more intense work, working at faster than marathon pace to allow me to improve my ability to run at marathon pace itself. And then just with the intensity of that session, it just adds an extra element of fitness on top of the easy session I was already doing within the 15k. So I followed this up on Wednesday. I did an 18 kilometer recovery pace run, so kind of mid 5:30s as usual, get the blood flowing and just prepare myself for a tougher day on Thursday. So this is just a nice comfortable one, but again I'm just slightly increasing the mileage that I'm doing in each of these runs now, because I'm just upping the mileage overall within the marathon plan. So previously I was doing 15 kilometer easy runs for these. I'm kind of upping that to 18, and then in certain runs I'll be doing probably over 20 as well in future weeks. So at the same time, it's just kind of getting my body primed for harder days. I'm also just building that overall fitness as well, so it's just quite a good thing to do. So Thursday as usual, a double speed day. So for this one, as usually I do double threshold, but for this one I split it between a VO2 max and a threshold session. So the first session of the day did a little 2k warm up and then 8 1 kilometer reps. These were done at my VO2 max, so this is roughly a pace of 3:17 per kilometer, and the idea is that you pretty much want to be sustaining that pace the whole way through if you can. So for 8 reps I pretty much did. My last rep was 319 and the second last rep was 318, so they're just off the pace, but they're still pretty much up there, which shows I was kind of hitting the right pace for this workout. And again, I'm just trying to improve my VO2 max, which is the amount of oxygen my body is able to use and convert into energy, which is going to help me on marathon day. So in between each of these reps I'm taking a 75-second slow jog recovery rest, and it just allows me to be able to perform that full rep without taking too much rest. If you take too much rest, it's going to be kind of an easier session. The idea is you want the challenge and you want your last couple of reps to be difficult. So I followed this up later in the day with another session. So I did a 2 kilometer warm up again, did 4 reps of 2 kilometers, and again I'm doing this in my threshold pace, so kind of aiming for somewhere between 3:40 and 3:30 per kilometer. In between each of these I was taking 2.5 minutes rest, so a little bit, about a third of the time it's actually taking me to run. My fast reps I'm taking as a rest in these, so that's kind of pretty good, makes it difficult, and definitely feeling a huge fitness benefit from that. So this again, a pretty good workout all day long in the double session, and yeah, definitely big benefits from this. It's not something that I would recommend to people that are kind of at a more beginner level, or basically would kind of want to be at an advanced level to be doing these double sessions, but if you are able to include them, they're just really good. Basically you get double the amount of benefit that you'd usually get. Friday was again all about recovery after such a heavy day on Thursday, so it was just 13 kilometers again at my recovery pace. So it ended up being a slightly quicker than average pace, I guess because I did a shorter session, so towards the end usually I'm going a little bit slower, but in this case yeah, it was 5:27 average, so not too bad, but still definitely based on heart rate recovery run. And I followed this up later in the day with another swim in the pool. So this time I did a kilometer in the pool, which is just 5 sets of 200 meters, again, just all about recovery, get the blood flowing, but a nice little fitness benefit on top. So overall Friday, all about recovery and get myself ready for more difficult days. So on Saturday I planned to do around 30 kilometers. I was going to do a 2 kilometer warm up, 2 sets of 11 kilometers with a bit of a rest in between, and then a couple of kilometers at the end. The session didn't quite go to plan, which is normal to happen to you in a marathon plan. And basically what happened was, the previous night I had flown back from Newcastle to Ireland, and doing this run I just didn't have the same energy. I didn't get in the door in Ireland until about 2 a.m, so I just found myself quite tired in this day. So I wasn't fully sure how this run would go, but basically went out, completed my first 11 kilometer rep, and at the beginning, well, kind of halfway through the second rep, I kind of knew I wouldn't be able to sustain it for 11 kilometers. So I had a choice here to make, whether to slow down and to just do the distance, or whether to sort of break up my sets a little bit and still cover most of the distance that I wanted to cover. So I sort of decided within myself that what I'd do is a rep of 5k and then two 2 kilometer reps. So I was doing 2 kilometers shorter at marathon pace than I planned, but again, it's a tough workout. My body was clearly tired, so there was no point forcing the issue too much. So by doing this, I enabled myself basically to get an extra couple of kilometers in at marathon pace than what I would have if I just pulled up early and kind of jogged it in home. So basically, it's kind of the mental side here that you're training. I knew not to push too much, but I sort of knew my body how much I probably could push, and I was struggling by the end of the last rep, but that kind of again shows that I picked the right distance for what my body was capable of doing at the time. So I think it is important to acknowledge that not every run in a marathon training plan is going to go to plan, and there are some times where you just have to dial it back. Sometimes that might mean taking out a full intensity day if in the previous days you've been struggling. In my case, I think it was sort of more to do with sleep, not getting enough sleep the night before and having to get up and do the run then. But I think these runs do give you a different kind of benefit, so I will have gained a good fitness benefit from doing this workout and from pushing through, but I think there's definitely also a mental element where you're training here, and it's important that, because on marathon day anything could happen and you might need to push through. So I've had something like this happen in basically the most recent London Marathon, and I'll probably do another video on that at some point to discuss how my previous marathons have gone. But it was the same sort of situation. I kind of had lacked sleep in the days leading up, and my body just didn't have the energy to do the run, so I sort of pushed through at a pace that I knew I could manage. So I think it's important to sort of train this mental aspect as well of running. And yeah, not everything is going to go perfectly, and if it does go perfectly, it probably does mean that you're maybe not pushing as hard as you possibly can. You have to remember that in a marathon plan, you're training well fatigued, and that's why it sometimes actually feels easier on marathon day, because you're not fatigued, you're rested. So training when fatigued is basically you're pushing your body to the limit, and that's what I did on this day. But I don't want any of that to be considered as an excuse or anything. I know that I didn't do the full set that I was meant to do, but I did what my body was capable of, and that's kind of all that matters. You even see professional runners who have YouTube channels and they basically run into this situation, so it's a total normal thing to happen during marathon training, and if it happens to anybody, yeah, it's just totally normal. So that's enough of the little sob story, and then we'll move on to my run on Sunday. So this run was basically a half marathon, and I did this when I got back to Newcastle. It was a bit different because I only got back late at night for this one, that's why you can see the footage quite dark. So this was another day affected by travel, so basically spent the whole day travelling. Got to the airport in Dublin at 11:30 and didn't arrive at the door in Newcastle until 8 o'clock at night. So I had a choice here. Did I want to take it easy, rest up because of the day before being difficult, and obviously this day of travel being difficult, or did I want to get out, get my run in, get my session in? And probably more for the mental side of it, I decided I definitely was going to get my session in no matter what time I got home at. So my plan for this run was to not go too hard, basically go by effort. I knew that my body might be feeling tired, so I wanted to go at a kind of comfortably difficult effort that I knew I could sustain. This turned out to actually be quite a decent effort, so I basically ran close enough to my marathon pace for this one, kind of a few seconds slower, but not very far off. So this run actually felt easier than the day before, even though I was pretty much running the whole 21 kilometers at near enough the same pace as what I was trying to run the day before. So that just kind of shows that these days can happen, and yeah, you just have to kind of roll with the punches. I was also running this in my Adidas Boston 12s, which are a shoe which don't have a carbon plate, which I usually do my speed sessions in a carbon plate, and I have found in the days since that my recovery has been a bit slower, my legs are a bit heavier, but the actual run itself I didn't have any difficulty, so it kind of shows that I'm capable of running those speeds, definitely without the speed shoes as well. And yeah, overall just quite a good session, I thought. So overall for this week I ran 134 kilometers, which brings me pretty much back to the level that I was running at before the deload week. I got all my intense sessions in, and even though one of the runs didn't go perfectly, I made the best of it. And again, the next day I followed up pretty much with a similar run, and I was able to do it. So it shows me that the fitness is there. It's just making sure the other elements such as sleep that I'm kind of nailing, and that's probably a weak area of my marathon training, probably something I can do better. So it's good to have lessons like that. But yeah, overall pretty good week. I was happy with it, and just want to thank anyone for watching. And yeah, any comments let me know, any questions let me know. Yeah, thanks for watching.